Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about the brand new film, The Amateur, starring Rami Malek. And we're going to talk about what ramifications this film has for a dungeon master when considering Dungeons and Dragons at the macro level. All right, so let's jump into this. So first of all, spoilers for the movie The Amateur here. Yeah, okay. So first of all, I'm a huge fan of Rami Malek. I really enjoyed him in the Daniel Craig James Bond film where he played the villain. I think the name of that one was Quantum of Solace. So one thing that's really nice is I am actually a huge um, I'm a huge fan of Daniel Craig as James Bond. I'm not that big a fan of James Bond. It's kind of interesting. I didn't realize that myself. But I realized Daniel Craig is my James Bond. He's the only James Bond I've ever seen every film in the theaters starring the same actor. And I really like Daniel Craig, and I really feel like I understand that arc. And Rami Malek did a fantastic job in that. I also did watch Mr. Robot, but I couldn't finish it. I am an evangelical Christian. I try not to clutch my pearls at like Hollywood doing Hollywood things, right? And I'll fast forward through scenes and stuff, do what I can to. I'm a huge movie fan, and I'm a huge small screen. I'm actually a bigger movie fan than I am any kind of shows or streaming content. For me, the premium experience is on the big screen. But I do like shows. There's particular shows I really enjoy that are favorites. And I really wanted to like Mr. Robot. And I really liked Rami Malek. I thought he was fantastic in it. And I also really liked Christian Slater, another just phenomenal. He's one of my favorite actors from the movie Heather, which had one of my other favorite actors, which was Winona Ryder. I really love Rami Malek's work, but I couldn't watch Mr. Robot because the content was just too adult. It felt like watching porn. I was like, I don't know. This is and I mean, evangelical Christian. I know it's fine for the rest of the world watch porn. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's a sin. And like I was watching, Mr. Robot, and I'm like, well, this is too much, man. I can't nah. There's just too much content in here. So I had to back out of that. But I am genuinely a really big fan of Rami Malek. So I was really looking forward to this movie. And I watched this movie, and I was really blown away with this movie. And this movie it was an action movie, but like you can't just do an action movie straight anymore. We've just seen everything, right? And here's why can't Scott? Why can't you just do a straight action movie? You cannot do it, and here's why, right? So first of all, if you do an action movie and you do it straight, you're going to get compared to John Wick, and you're going to get your butt absolutely devastated, right? Like you're going to get so conquered, right? Like 355, right? Like garbage, right? What's another one? Jason Statham, the Beekeeper, absolute garbage, right? Like terrible plot, not simple, and just terrible writing. That could have been a pretty good movie. But even that, it would have just been about. The problem is, if you do a straight action film, you're just going to get compared to John Wick, and you're going to get devastated. Nobody has been able to do that. No, since John Wick 1 came out, John Wick has only gotten better with each iteration, and nothing in the action field has even come close, right? So now you've got to do action with a twist. And The Amateur delivered. It took it from a different perspective. So what is the twist in The Amateur? And then we'll get to the part where it relates to Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. So what is the twist in The Amateur? Okay, here we go. The twist in The Amateur is So it's that he is a data analyst and not a killer, right? Scott, isn't that exactly the plot of Jack Ryan? Yes, it is, right? But Jack Ryan, the way they handle that, were like, well, he could shoot and punch really good. Where did he get that training? How does that work? I don't know. It's completely hand-waved, right? But in this film, it is not hand-waved. What if Jack Ryan was played straight? What if a data analyst had to kill people, right? That is really fascinating. And once you see this film, you're like, oh, so Jack Ryan just really did hand wavy him and never really addressed the problem in any way, right? And that is the real thing. You're like, yeah, I didn't really see it until I saw it, but the amateur actually asks, well, what if like a computer nerd had to kill people, right? Is he going to be able to just pick up a gun and shoot somebody? And the answer is no. And they actually do that in this film. They actually commit to the actual parameters of the story. What if the person who needs to kill 4 people, and that's how many people need to be killed in this film, has to do the job but can't use a gun to do it? Can't like just Jack Ryan it, fake it up, right? And it was really fantastic. And so every single time that he kills someone, he does it at a distance. He does it using a bomb. He does it using the infrastructure of this, you already saw it. It's in the trailer. The pool that, falls to the ground and that guy's dead. He does another one by engaging with this woman, and then she runs out into the street and is hit by a car, right? So that's 3 out of 4. And then the last one, he doesn't even kill the last guy. He captures him, right? And exposes a traitorous cell in the CIA itself, right? It's a really good story. It's fantastic, right? But I watched it and I loved it, and my respect for Rami Malek is even higher. I think he's probably one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. I think he should have a bigger career than he's had. Although, don't sleep on Rami Malek. He's been in some bangers, and he should be very proud of himself because he just was in this film and he's the lead, right? He's opening this film, right? So good on him, right? And I went opening night. I was very excited to see it. It was a fantastic film. Loved it. Okay. Now, where do I, the Dungeon Master, and you, the Dragon Master, where do we come out understanding with Dungeons and Dragons? Well, this last year, if you've been watching my channel, what has been one of the major themes of exploration of Dungeons and Dragons? Well, it has been player character death, okay? And I've been on a tear, right? What's the J. Scott Garibay tear on death in Dungeons and Dragons? Here you go. OSR is completely wrong, and if you have a player character die at a D&D 5e table game, then you need, listen carefully, you need to shut that game down, and there should be no backup characters. So my opinion is different than anyone in the D&D community. And I actually went at Seth Gorkowski this last year, and he's like, you should have backup characters. And I'm like, you should absolutely not have backup characters. So basically, when you hit a player character death, right, if you have a backup, if your Dungeon Master sucks, if they told you to have a backup character. And the reason why is they're saying, I'm not going to give you time to mourn that character, right? We're going to push you right back into the action. And I'm saying, no, that is completely wrong, right? These player character sheets are not just pieces of paper. This is an identity stack. This player character is a vessel you have poured yourself into, and you need to, and now that vessel has been shattered and parts of you are on the ground, right? And so to just pick up another player character sheet is outrageously dangerous, in my opinion, and completely unempathetic, and frankly, I kind of think a little, I'm sorry to say this, I think it's a little psychopathic, right? I really think only someone who is incredibly unfeeling would ever have anyone use a backup character sheet. Now I need to say, so first of all, I get really, really antsy when anybody diagnoses me, right? So I'm just saying, I think this action, when anybody takes it, right? So I'm not attaching anybody's name to this, right? So I'm not accusing some specific person. I think this is, I think it's psychopathic. I really do believe that, right? Based on no credentials, right? I have no credentials on the couch scribbling discipline, right? So this is simply my thought, simply my opinion, said about a group of people, right? So I'm being very careful here. If you think that's too much and I went too far, hit me up in the comments below. I'm willing to listen, right? But I think I think it's fair for me to share my opinion in that way, right? It's just my opinion, right? I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm just saying that behavior is, in my opinion, psychopathic, okay? And I am saying this not to diagnose someone or charge someone. I'm saying it so that people can realize how dangerous this is. I really think this is dangerous. Sorry, I kind of went, well, actually, that everything I just said was very important to what we're about to talk about, right? And I've been talking about that for a year. So to me, I don't sit at the Dungeons and Dragons tables for fun. I'm there to do what B. Dave Walters said we could do, to evoke intense emotion or get relief for intense emotion, and to go even beyond that, right? I think that's simply a start, to improve myself as a human being. That's why I'm there, to improve every single person at the table. That's why I'm there, right? That's what Dungeons is about for me, okay? All right, so with that said, exploration of death is a major theme in Dungeons & Dragons, right? Through player character death. And then also, I've been saying, hey, when we go through this, when we are experiencing death as player characters, it helps us to be ready for our own death or the death of people in our lives in a way that no other narrative format allows, right? Well, I just saw Rami Malek's absolutely spectacular The Amateur, right? And that says killing. Actually, specifically, Lawrence Fishburne played Hendo in this movie, and he was like, killing someone changes you forever, and you may not even be able to do it, right? So what I think is very, very interesting is then, okay, if we understand all that, if we look at the film The Amateur, which takes taking a life extremely serious, right? Not like Jack Ryan. No, let's not get it twisted. I loved Jack Ryan, okay? So first of all, I like the movies where like Alec Baldwin played Jack Ryan. I like the movies where Harrison Ford played Jack Ryan. John Krasinski's Jack Ryan, I love it. It's great. It's a great action film, okay? But you ain't learning any life lessons from it. It really has nothing to teach you, okay? But The Amateur does. The Amateur is looking at taking a life very, very deeply from the level of profound wisdom, right? And trying to teach you something. And it's saying certain people cannot kill, right? They cannot do it. And the movie takes that into account and processes from there, right? And allows you to come out the other side learning something real, right? What I think is really fascinating then is, what does that mean for you and I killing someone in Dungeons and Dragons, right? Now, this gets very deep, and I want to have this conversation with you. So first of all, let's put off the table what you're thinking, because you're wrong. You're like, oh, well, it's no big deal, Scott. It's just like watching a movie and somebody get killed in the movie. Or it's like reading a novel and somebody got killed in the novel. Or it's just like killing somebody in Call of Duty. All those are wrong. And I'm going to sweep away all of them right now. First of all, when you witnessing a murder is not the same thing as choosing to murder, right? And this is where it gets very interesting, okay? When we are playing Dungeons and Dragons, every single action of the player character, unless you were incredibly unfortunate and happened to be Orion Akaba with Matthew Mercer as your DM. Other than that, if you as a Dragon Master, you are controlling your player character, and when your character murders someone, when they take the life of an orc, when they take the life of a woodcutter, when they take the life of an evil rogue that works for the Zentarum in Waterdeep, you are murdering someone, right? You that's a murder, right? And you are choosing to do that, okay? You're not witnessing a murder. So one, it's not the same as watching it on television, because that is simply consuming what an author prepared for you. And that murder is on them, not you. You're simply witnessing. You didn't instigate it. You didn't enact it, okay? You didn't make a choice, okay? All right, so you could sweep away books, the small screen, and the big screen. It's not the same. What about Call of Duty? Call of Duty is worthless crap. First of all, if you're a big like video game fan, don't spend another minute on my channel, right? I don't believe that video games contain art. I think it's not narrative, it's not art, it's not a story. It's simply activity. It is a spectacle, it is a shiny group of beads for crows. There is nothing happening there, right? So Call of Duty, you're not choosing to kill someone, right? You are simply pushing buttons on a very crap simulation that has been written by the absolute worst narrative creators on the planet, which is video game studio developers, right? There's nothing of significance there. There's no art there. There's no discussion of morality. All that you could just, I'm not saying, what I'm saying, I'm not dismissing Call of Duty. I'm dismissing the entire video game field as useless, shiny beads for crows. It is nothing. There's no narrative value. There is no, there's nothing, right? And evidence I'll put up to that is, I read George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire, right? I then watched someone play Elden Ring. It is astounding he got paid for that absolute shiny bead slop, right? There is no narrative in this. There's no character arc. It's just shiny beads for crows, okay? So it's not the same, all right? Now, where do we arrive? Okay. So what I'm saying is, now we arrive there. In Dungeons & Dragons, we are choosing to take lives. And what I'm saying is that you and I are more prepared to take lives than anyone else on this planet. And the reason why is we've been in a position to do it at choice again and again and again. And we've had to think about the obstacles of taking lives, and then we've had to think about the ramification of taking those lives, right? And we've iterated more than anybody on the planet. And here's the kicker. This is the most important part that you absolutely must understand. We have been doing this under the auspice of the great Gary, and he attached alignment to it. He literally attached morality to it. There is no medium in the world that has ever prepared people more to take lives than Dungeon Masters, than Dragon Masters, than Dragon Masters, than Dragon Masters. Not Dungeon Masters, Dragon Masters. It's a completely different subject, a completely different video to talk about Dungeon Masters. And we need to consider this. We need, we just need to acknowledge this and consider this. Every single word you heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. You get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.